Go on.
Okay, welcome to the 20th weekly touchdown of the Wealth Transfer Initiative with Vinicius, Anthony, Tibi, and Lauren. And today,
Yeah,
Vinicius has started a provocation, which he will explain.
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah. The provocation is we have been talking a lot about what type of wealth could we be reimagining or re-signifying for the 20th century, for the third decade, right? In the midst of all this, let's say, uh, collapsing societies that we live, because the actual institutions uh, don't have don't have any more any type of grasp on our lives in the sense that they had in the 20th century, right? So not only that, but the wealth generator of the 20th century doesn't make any sense for this 20th century, right? So the third decade of the 20th century. Why do I say that? Because you see, what we do, or all the activities that we do to generate wealth, has a very extractive uh, machinery, right? And extractive machinery not only of the nature of this planet, but ourselves. We treat ourselves as products. It's incredible, isn't it? And and it's a very accumulative cultures. We accumulate everything. We discard a lot of things. We have been polluted the oceans with plastic, with microplastics all over around. It's incredible. It's really incredible how we came to this. And in this sense, how can we redefine wealth for the 20th century, right, for the third decade? And with the first touchdowns, we discuss a lot to, uh, in a very geeky way, I must say, but we discuss a lot how to how we can transcend this very anthropocentric worldview based on our necessities as if we were the top of the food chain, but we aren't, and to go to a very life-centric worldview, right? A very life-centric one. That's something very new and very ancient for us, because I always remind that we as a species, we were actually very nomads, right? We spend 98 or 97% of our existence as nomad species, with a very relational framework with nature of this planet, right? So the when we became sedentary, we became the sedentary civilizations that we became. We started to have not a we started to have a very different relation with life at a whole, and especially between us. We became very warrior-like, very territorial, right? And we became cultural tribes, we became social and cultural tribes, and we still are cultural, social, cultural tribes. In not only in the physical matter of the thing, but in the mimetic realm of it. We're a lot of mimetic tribes, right? And we still are this way. So what I'm doing this long introduction, first to contextualize better Anthony, that has been attending to these touchdowns, and secondly because it will accommodate better the provocation that I did in the email yesterday. So uh, that said, what is a life-centric worldview? How could we really do this movement, right? Well, we're doing it in a very complex way. not a complicated one, very complex way. Not only establishing new mean tribes, mean machineries. I don't know if you guys have heard about solar punks. Solar punks is something very new. Yeah, and they can be bioregionalists, or they can be not bio, they can be localists. So you have a lot of mimetic and tribes all over the place, trying to come up with new futures for our presence, and to break off this macro narrative of this doom future, right, that we're embedded in. So they provoke, this type of provocation is a very welcome. Now we have a very new expression for solar punks and bioregionalists and localists. I don't know if you guys are aware. They're calling doomer optimists. It's really interesting because it's a very interesting provocation, doomer optimists. So that said, I was thinking, wow, I have been already doing all sorts of experimentations, trying to come up with all sorts of different futures in the present, not putting the future in the future, right? And related to how we can recentrify wealth in the sense that is life in a life-centric manner. How can we redefine it in a life-centric manner, right? And well, I come up with this idea, not only me, Florian, Danilo King, all the guys here on the Touchdown, that we can be more organic than organizational. You see, Anthony, more really organic, really empathic, really a sort of a post-capitalist move, very peer-to-peer, and seeing ourselves as organisms, but very, very very permeable organisms. So we're doing that in this sense. So Utopia and Taudao are very organic, not so much organizational, and we have in common a cultural imprint called OCAST experience. That Lauren that's here didn't have her OCAST experience yet, but she will. And where Taudao does all the post-production of this OCAST. OCAST experience is a type of a decentralized podcasting experience, right? A very decentralized one, a very open and organic and decentralized one. And it's related to the regenerative movements that Utopia is related to and Taudao is related to. So we have been doing this now almost for a year now, I think, 10 months, 11 months. And it's interesting to see how things are naturally going well, let's say. You have some natural discordances, you have some natural you see, it's interesting to see how this experiment accommodates well, Lauren and Tibi, the asynchronous flow of things, right? It accommodates well the unplanned flow of things. It accommodates well the things that simply emerges because of the interests of various peoples that are around Taudao and around Utopia, right? So it's not a very planned thing. So it's interesting how things happen, and it's not something very productive, right? Because it isn't. But it's interesting how things has been done. I don't know if you guys saw the post. I don't know if Tibi saw the post production of the OCAST experience that he had for himself, energizing different roles in the OCAST experience. But it's very well done, right? So it's not a matter of quality. So it's happening. and my provocation was, why can't we do that with Sensorica? Why can't we do that with Green Fab Lab? Why can't we do that with Abundant Earth Foundation? Why can't? Why is it so difficult? What is the problem? Is the language a barrier for it? What it is because these proposals are very tight organized in a very organizational way. I don't know. So my provocation was, does it need to recreate something with fiat and crypto money to make it happen, like a shareable fund that Taudal has? I don't know. So this is the provocation, and it would be nice for us to have a conversation today about it. Sorry if it became too late and Anthony got bored. It's not with us here anymore. But that was it, Laurie. I don't know if I made a good job to put it in a nutshell, but I tried.
Okay, can you make it more specific? Like, what do you want to have happen? Like, what is this wealth that you want us to be sharing?
Well, you see, it's not only your capabilities as a human being in the sense of the knowledge that you gather along your life, or being more specific for some type of procedural, some type of empirical knowledge, let's say, but in a sense to be aware, be conscious, and be aware that you're not by your own, right? You're not only by your own, in a sense that you're surrounded by folks that are interested in what you're doing and wants to share their wealth too. They want to share their knowledge, their time, right? Wants to share even let's say monetary resources like cryptos or fiat money or things like that. So this is already happening between Utopia and Taudal via OCAS experience, right? So it's very interesting how folks are sharing everything. They're very open to do this, and they're not part of a team, right? In a conventional way, they are not. They don't have the same perspectives. They are very different people, and this is happening. So that's the provocation. Why is it so difficult for us to do this move? When I say us, is the people that are attending or at least viewing these touchdowns weekly. So I don't know if I was more specific as you needed me to be, but that's it. Anthony is back. Wow, great, Anthony.
Tiberius or Anthony, did you get that in a way that I didn't? Because I feel like it's a little vague. And if you got that and understood it and want to rephrase it, I would love it.
I'm afraid I was absent for part of it, and I was writing an email for another part of it.
Yep.
No, I didn't. I would really like to read this one that you have written, the provocation that you sent out by email.
So what I understood from the provocation, I didn't read the email. By the way, I had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning because we had a meeting with some impact investment group in Europe and Lebanon. So I was, I'm still a little bit, I'm still in bed. But what I understood is the provocation on my side, it's maybe just an invitation to try to think about what we can share concretely without necessarily telling what to share concretely. That's what I got. An invitation to for all of us to think what we could share, how we could share, and every one of us might have different answers. But what I understood is that it's the attitude. It's moving in attitude, right, towards becoming more conscious that maybe we have to move towards something more concrete and not just talking, but also sharing something. Is that accurate?
Yeah. You see, what is wealth for each one of you, right? What is wealth for each one of you? This is the first question I made.
Mhm.
Second is if you're feeling wealthy in a sense of not only in a sense that you are a rich person by knowledge or by your spiritual path, but you're feeling healthy too. Well, I think that wealth can encapsulate all these meanings in its wording, right? So, what the provocation is? What is so difficult for us to be very open to share all the wealths that we have, right? And and to share this and not only our daily lives. Well, I actually do that, right? I actually do that in my daily life. I'm always sharing my wealth, my energy, my capability to onboard people and to do some empathic listening. But I'm always sharing the things that I access, right? Like fiat money, like crypto, like new knowledges that I learned. So I'm always doing this type of move, right? And the question is, why can't we do this within organizations, within our own endeavors, let's say? Why is it so difficult to do that, right? What we have to transcend to do this? Because when we look to nature, nature is very interdependent, right? Is always sharing all the things, always, all the time, sharing in the sense that everyone benefits for everyone, and is in a very ecological sense. I'm thinking, why can't we be so ecological as nature with our endeavors, sharing all sorts of wealth and health? That's it. I don't know if I frame it better now, but that's a provocation.
I think we do that to a great extent within Sensorica. Just for example, tonight at 4:30 in the morning, a team from Toronto woke up with me here, and we attended this meeting. So we're generous with our time and with people make great efforts. It's like this guy, he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning, and it's not that we're getting paid or anything. It's like we are together here trying to develop more potential for Sensorica, not just for one particular venture or project, but for it in general. So there's a lot of sharing of time. There's a lot of people donating their time, so to speak, or participating and putting their time into developing the network and there's a guy installing the OVN wiki. I just want to give concrete examples, not to be vague. Jeff, to actually name him, Jeff Hang. We have the OVN wiki down for a while, and he stepped up and said, "Okay, I'm going to install it on the new put it up with the new host that we have." And I asked him, like, do you need some payment? And he says, no, don't worry. I just want to log my time. I want to go through the Sensorica model and log my time and be recognized later, maybe, whatever. And what we share in Sensorica, I think it's what people are sharing, what kind of wealth they're sharing. I think it's context-based. And Sensorica has been designed for people to collaborate. So they put their skills into the game without asking for an immediate return. And some of them see it as an investment, so they think later maybe they have something. Some of it see it as just participation, and although they benefit or not in other ways from the interaction, that's something, but they think there is a purpose behind all this, and they want to be part of that, you know. So we were designed for this kind of wealth sharing, you know, the wealth of who we are as people, what kind of skills we have. Even the personality comes into the equation when we have to negotiate or smooth things out on the social level. Some people that are, you know, have better social skills, they can jump in and play the role of mediators. Yeah, so that's what we are daily on a daily basis uh, sharing within Sensorica. And
I
there's more.
remember in the last OCAS experience that we talk about ethics and ethos. Remember, Tibi?
Yeah,
In the final moments, you summarize that maybe Sensorica was designed to do all this collaborative work, this open collaborative work, but it has identity. There's a Sensorica, and there's very. It means that it has a way to do sharing. Let's say,
yeah.
it has a
It's
mechanics to it.
organizational. It's organizational, like you say. Yes.
Yes, it's organizational. So
Mhm.
and you yourself you made a thought self thought provocation for yourself. Maybe we need to be more organic and not so sensoric in an identity way, in an identified way as a culture, let's say.
Yeah.
Like well, that I, 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 I thought that was very interesting that you said that in the final moments of the OCAS experience, and that was that was something that I was thinking about when I read the email yesterday. So because you see, for me to be for all the endeavors that I know, and there's a lot of them, the most, let's say, open and collaborative that I know is Sensorica, but the organizational form to it, right? So, is that an impediment to be more organic in a sense, to mixture, to mesh, to make some type of symbiosis with other endeavors, like let's say Taudao, like Utopia, or I don't know. I'm just asking you.
It is a good. It is a good provocation. I think it's worth thinking in that direction. On the other side, the reality is that what I observe is that people that come to the place, to Sensorica, okay, and um, they want to join projects and, you know, get rewarded and all that. They come from very different cultures. You know, we have no. I should say that we swim in an ocean that is still toxic culturally to what we're trying to do. We're trying to be very collaborative and sharing, and most of the people that come to join us, they are, how should I say, indoctrinated in a competitive culture, right? And so what happens is that people they just start doing shit the way they think they're supposed to do things, and so they do it wrong. They do it wrong. And I always have to. This is my experience from my reality. I always have to tell them in a nice way that it is probably more efficient in this particular context if they share earlier, if they would communicate something not just to me but to everybody, you know, how to do stuff, you know, that is more efficient in our context. So if you don't have a flag, and if you don't have a sort of a delimited territory, if you don't have an identity, people might not know what they walk into. That flag and the limitations tells them that they're entering something new. So at least they get conscious about being somewhere else and a little bit more attentive when they start to do stuff, not just automatically doing it, but maybe ask the question, maybe here we do something different, because they rationalize that they are in a different place. So there is this compromise. There is this compromise between signaling people that they are in a different place, so they should adopt a different attitude, or at least try, and not just go with what they think is the flow. So there's a compromise between that, telling people you are in a different place, and let things organically flow, which means let people act. You know, so and I think that compromise, that balance shifts in time as more and more people get our culture. Okay. But for now, it's like you're taking an individual, you're taking somebody from the streets of New York and you dump him in the middle of the Amazon forest with the indigenous people that live there. You know, that guy is totally lost. You know what I'm saying? It's like he needs he needs a crash course on indigenous people's culture, right? You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's the thing. I don't know. By putting the flag and the limitations and rules and regulations in place, by making it more, like you say, organizational and less organic, you lose something. You lose the spontaneity. You lose, you know what I'm saying? You lose something. Make a machine rather than making something organic. Totally agree. But then if you relax that, then you lose something else. It's like it becomes very chaotic, and the culture is not the one that is um, how do you say, specific for this particular context. You know, you get invaded by the mainstream culture, and that culture takes roots, and then it's hard for you to shift back. You see what I'm saying? It's a compromise, you know.
I see it's maybe part of the ongoing development of the techniques. So as time goes, you'll get increasingly better compromises as the techniques are developed, right? Is my audio working okay?
Yes. Techniques of what?
Of collaboration. So you'll get, it's not entirely just a compromise between having a flag and no flag, or delineation and no delineation. But if we adopt the flag, then over time you adopt improved techniques of onboarding new people, then we'll get to a superior place, right?
Oh,
like, so it's
yeah, that's
one
an
step
interesting.
forward.
It's an interesting comment. Yeah, but onboarding is also a process, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to put this process in place.
But maybe some, superior method.
But I think that the signaling part of it is related to the ethos, right, Tibi? And the ethos signals the inputs or outputs of the environment, or that you're making contact in a very let's say ethereal, a very how to say, to very adventurous or exploring way. This is a new type of ethos. It's different from the ethos I'm navigating through. I don't know, here where I live, with the folks that I'm related to the solar punk movement, let's say. Because I talk about solar punks because here in Brazil has a lot of solar punks here. It doesn't mean that it has a lot of solar punks here. And they're very different. They have different sub ethos and ethics between them, but they are very empathic in between them, and it doesn't have any sort of rules, let's say, or policy for the type of things that they do together, right? And
Yeah.
they're very organic. So so for me, the signaling is more related to the ethos than properly to the rules or to the flags, to the policy. You see, flags and policy and can obviously craft a ethos, let's say, right? Can craft, and at least at my understanding, a very not artificial, but a very systematic ethos. This is the way that we function, right? This is the system. This is the tooling of the system. Okay, we can say that this is some kind of ethos too, but it's not. But it's more enforced to people, right? It's more enforced. You have to adapt, right? You're not welcoming to mixture in, to mesh in, and when you're meshing and you're aggregating your perspective, Tibi, your way of doing things, you're transforming it too, right? So that's how I see it. I may be wrong, not wrong, but I may be failing and envisioning some of the things that you said, but about Sensorica. But that's what it came to me now. Do you agree with that, then? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, ethos is, but ethos is also hard to get. It's hard to. So here's a other example. We also share physical things, material things. Okay, at the lab you can find stuff that have been brought, that was brought there by people. They had some machine in their basement, some computer, and they brought it to the lab. Maybe it was their computer, and they brought it at the lab, and they said, I use this only once in a while. I'm better leave it here because some other people can use it. Or maybe it's a tool to cut wood or metal, or maybe it's a drill. So people do share that. People that share this ethos naturally, and then you have people coming to the lab to extract. So we had people using the lab to run their own business and excavating, as telling everybody that they're Sensorica affiliates, but they were not putting much in the commons. They were not even contributing to pay rent or the bills, and they were just using the lab as the office to run their own business. Now, these people knew that they were outside of the ethos. They consciously knew it. They didn't believe in it, but they are free riders, so they are actually they're realizing what they're doing. They're just benefiting from it, and so how do you kick these people out? Because you cannot fill the space. The space is limited, right?
But I think that it's not
So,
a matter of kicking them out, man. I think that you're always going to be someone that has a more extractive
well,
mindset, right?
it is. I tell you why it is, because the space is limited. We can only have 20 people sitting down in the lab at the same time and working. Okay, so if you have one seat occupied by every day by somebody that's running the business there, that's one seat less for somebody that would contribute to the commons. And so space is limited, is scarce. We're talking about scarce things. Okay, we don't have infinite space. I'm talking about the physical lab. So at some point you need to tell these people, well, get out. But how do you
Or
do
pay
it?
rent.
So the only way to do it is to say there is a rule written on the wall. Okay, so that's why rules are important sometimes. And when you make rules, you make it organizational, you make it more mechanical. So you point the finger to a rule. Listen, the community has adopted the rule, it's written on the wall. based on the ethos, you cannot kick them out, because you enter in discussions with them and say, yeah, but the values and our culture, and they'll argue saying yes, they do have the same values and culture and all that. Then if you make a very clear rule, if you can only use the space if you do that or that or that, okay, absent of doing one of these, all these things, let's say, then you're not by definition a sensoric affiliate, and you need to pay rent. If you don't pay rent, you're out. That's the only way you could mitigate this problem, because people are going to start to argue, and you don't want to argue. Every time you argue with someone, you poison the environment, and the people, they don't like to come to an environment where you fight with people. So from my experience, if you have a scarce resource, the best way to keep conflict low, keep the environment happy, is to have a written rule on the wall, and you just have to point to it, and say, listen, I'm sorry, but you don't fit in here, because that's the rule. And you know what? People understand that. It's strange, but people understand that, and they leave.
Yeah, well, that's why
Much
people
more
have been
efficient.
raised and indoctrinated, right? That's
Yes.
the conventional sense for in elementary school. That's the way it's always been. Your written rule.
Yeah, but from practice, in my case, that's what works.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. So yeah, it's always this compromise between what's easy and what works in practice.
But then there's the question of how who has the authority to impose the rules, and how do the rules get decided and stuff like that, which I'm not saying it's any better if you don't have written rules. I'm just saying that those questions still remain, right?
Yeah, because ethos is good, but it's not as clear as a phrase written on the wall.
Yeah, clarity is a good idea.
I'm curious if Lauren has any. I know that she's having her breakfast. I don't know breakfast or lunch, but if she has anything to comment about that, because we're talking, of course, of collective intelligence here too, right? This is some sort of collective intelligence too. So, but collective intelligence is not a thing; it's a phenomenon, right? At least in a very network perspective, an interactive network perspective, peer-to-peer network perspective is a phenomenon, right? So it's not something that you arrange or you can extract, because when you say that you're doing collective intelligence, you're doing it in a very methodological way, right? You have some methodologies to do collective intelligence. You come up with some methodology. You come up with some framing, right? You come up with some framing, some methodology, and you say, well, we're doing this collective intelligence work here, and to know this thing and to better understand this. And this is a very, at least for me, this is a very top-down, let's say, approach, and a very poor one to understand collective intelligence, right? Because my understanding collective intelligence is something that resonates in between us, right? And it's a real phenomenon in a sense that we can have glimpses of what we called collective intelligence, right? And if we're talking here about something that is organic and open, is something that is related to collective intelligence, at least as I see it. And so what I'm trying to convey here, Tibi, as a provocation too, is when we put the phrase on the wall, right? Because we have limited resources, isn't that a matter of perspective, in the sense that when you say that those resources are limited, what are you referring to? Because you see, I don't know how much 3D printers is in the world now, right? But certainly it's not infinite, but there's a lot of them, right? But they are not in one place, right? They're in various places. They're in people's home, in hacker labs and maker labs, but in industries. But you have a lot of, not infinite, but you have a lot of resources related. You have a lot of 3D printers all over the planet, all over around. If the people that have this, if they open themselves to these 3D printers, you diminish the scarcity part of it. Is not so limited. Okay, even if better if the 3D printer can imprint, as we know that it has some 3D printers that are capable to print themselves, right? They print them parts. You can print. You can print. Yes. You can print another 3D printer. That resources that was very limited, very scarce, becomes not illimited, of course, but it becomes accessible for a huge amount of people, and in a very shareable way. And what I'm trying to say is this, would this be a sort of collective intelligence move, in the sense that if everyone wakes up in the morning and say, "Wow, today I'm going to share this limited resource with anyone that needs to access them, this 3D printer," and let's see what's going to happen, right? Let's see what's going to happen, and I don't know what is going to emerge, right? What's going to emerge from this, but certainly it's not something that's going to be very limiting, because it's very decentralized, it's very distributed, has some complexity, and but you don't have control of it, right? So you're going to need to define the access not by a policy, by peer-to-peer dynamics, right? I have to connect with Anthony, that is sharing his 3D printer, to interact with him, to see how I can access his 3D printer that he's going to as a shareable item, resources for this worldwide 3D printer shareable network, let's say.
I like where you're going with this, Vinny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No.
I just want to say, where he's thinking along similar lines, it seems to me development of the techniques over time is an important part of things. Yeah.
No. Please go on. I'm just putting some lawn in the fire here, just for us to.
The reason I didn't say something similar in response to what Tibi was talking about is that I know Tibi has extensive experience and he already knows all the things that I would point out. It's just a matter of, yeah, you get freeloaders, and like you say, if people would take a different attitude, that might be progress. But we can all see obvious freeloaders that would jump in, or obvious situations where freeloaders would jump in and use a polyfilament for the printer or whatever it is. And so we can jump on to rapid solutions like rule sets that are imposed by a centralized authority, as the conventional approaches that we usually take. But we also see that those have major limitations. So I think we're faced with, I think what the guys at Sensorica are faced with is development of the techniques of collaboration to think and act together as a group. It's a major part of what's going on. If we try to cut through like all the details, like of what's happening in front of us, and I've seen this many times in makerspaces and hacker labs, where you have a group of people and they want to prevent freeloaders. They have to obey the rules of the landlord and the insurance policies. In a way, they have limited resources, but I would argue that an improvement. I like where you're going, Vinay, partly because you seem to be talking about accessing the wealth that is out there and trying to avoid what many people have called the abundance mindset. I'm pretty sure I've heard Tibi use this term abundance mindset or scarcity mindset. So like in this particular case, a slight improvement in the technique, which might also have downsides and may not be the winning patch, software patch for this technique. Like maybe it's not good enough to make the cut, but you get the people who are running businesses. You say, is your business profitable or not? If it's not profitable, then you're not doing anything useful. So yeah, you're probably going to have to leave. But if it is profitable, then you have a little bit of extra surplus, so you can pay some rent. And also to try to predict the future of what they're going to do in the future. Like, are they always going to be not able to pay rent, or are they just going through a phase where they're going to be able to contribute to the commons in the future? Is a slight improvement over the technique of, well, I don't know what the rules on the wall are. So are you able to tell us what the rules on the wall are, Tibi? Like, what are your current approaches for what people have to do to get access to the space? I guess they have to pay rent, basically. So one critical thing. Oh, your audio is turned off.
Well, there's a list of rules for the lab. It's on the web. I don't know it by heart, but essentially what it is to establish a sort of an equivalence between what you put in and what you take out to avoid free riding. It's geared precisely to avoid free riding, because if you look at the bottom, or how these rules were created, they were created because of a case that we had. Somebody exploiting the commons, somebody running a business in the lab. So it was designed precisely to make a sort of a win-win situation between any individual that is using the lab or the tools and the community as a whole. Okay, so we say essentially, if you're contributing to Sensorica project, you are enriching the commons, so you don't have to pay rent. But if you're not, which means you're not documenting anything in an open way, you're not participating, in the community, well, then you're just there extracting, right? You're not dumping anything in. So that's the recipe that we followed. How can we make this balanced, right? So there is not just extraction, but there must be something that people put in, and you have to enforce it. Yeah, but it's I see the same pattern, because it's a very similar case with co-living. There's a lot of people that share living spaces, apartments, and I'm sure Vinny has a lot of experience with that. There are a few arrangements like that in Montreal, co-living spaces, and people get into fights all the time because there is a scarce resource, which is a bed in a limited space, and sometimes you have people that it's not just about paying rent, but it's also about contributing to the living space, meaning wash dishes and keep the place clean and safe, right? And also be contribute to a good positive atmosphere, so you feel at home and not have to fight with some asshole that is rude to everybody around. So that when it comes to the Sensorica space, it's almost the same situation, where people have to contribute to maintain the shared space,
But it just seems to me that, and I've had quite a bit of experience with co-living too, is that although I shouldn't say too much because I'm not actually part of Sensorica, so I'm only speaking from experience with Hacker Labs, makerspaces, and co-living arrangements.
Yeah.
There is a certain tendency, which is legitimate. Like we can say, we can talk about abundant mindset, and people who are actually in these situations will say, well, yeah, but that's unrealistic, it's idealistic, it's not grounded in reality, and I can't do those things right now, maybe in the future or something, or some hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a certain tendency in our society, like you say, people are highly indoctrinated, and they will, like with co-living situations, I have had some serious situations where there was just a tendency towards this scarcity mindset, where people were fighting over stuff that they didn't really have to fight over. There's a certain, perhaps it's kind of a laziness or a disbelief that it's possible to do better. And so it tends to lead to this situation where everybody just has to pay rent. You have to pay your own way, and that's really the only way. And as long as the rent gets paid, that's the only thing that really matters. It's the sort of the ground state that we get dragged back to. And I see that not happening at Sensorica, which means it's major progress. But I just want to say that it does seem to me that there is a certain tendency that we all have, because we do all come from this conventional society, to go back to that. Whereas I think it is legitimately true that it is possible. This scarcity mindset thing is a thing, and we can take a different strategy. I don't want to say a mindset because it sounds kind of hippie. It's just too vague, right? But it's just a strategy. We can adopt at least a slightly superior strategy, like getting a dishwashing machine for the dishes, or having what I did in my household. I got roommates now. I got 2 of the dish drying racks, because I noticed everybody always leaves the dishes in the dish drying rack and nobody puts them away. So just get another dish drying rack. Then we have more space. This is a very slight improvement, but it's just, and also I require that people use headphones, which is a problem I had earlier because my headphones weren't working, so I couldn't participate in the call. Because if I require that rule, then everybody has to use headphones. If I don't use them, everybody else is going to stop using them. But it's just a slight improvement in the technique, and my roommate can hear me now when I'm talking, so there's not much I can do about that. Soundproofing is very expensive, so yeah. But what I was just saying, like, I think there's definitely hope in a different strategy. Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what I get out of this is the scarcity mindset, and your proposition about improving the technique, right? Putting in place some processes that smooth people in somehow, and yeah, pretty cool. And yes, Vinny, it's I have 2 things to kind of think about and see how I can put him in. The organic thing of Sensorica, I think the flag prevents these networks from merging with each other because it creates this tribal culture, right? It creates an identity and a tribal behavior, and then people think in terms of us and them. So making it more organic, I think it's something that it's always in the back of the head to try to see how we can improve that within the limitations of reality, right? Because you don't want to dismantle the lab all of a sudden and lose everything. And the other thing that I wanted to propose to Sensoricans, and I'm waiting for the right moment, is I actually have an email to be sent. Is what you do in Tao Dao. It's to say, let's create a pool, okay, where people regularly dump some excess financial capacity, could be crypto or that, and anybody can take, anybody can take for their own. So that's a practice that I would like to propose. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's in Tao Dao, the resources, the crypto or the fiat money, they're there, right? Because people understand that this is very interesting. People understand that the actual money that we use on a daily basis, right? The fiat money, dollar, euro, real, doesn't have any type of future value in the present. So people that are doing this movement to share crypto and to share fiat money to the shareable fund, they understand that the best thing that they can do with this idle wealth of them, this excess of, they don't know what to do with this crypto, with this fiat money, the best thing to do is to put at disposal to this experiment where people are experimenting new ways to work together in a decentralized manner, new ways to generate wealth together, right? And in a very organic way too. So they in CTB, they understand that it's an investment in the future, in the present of everyone, in this type of future in the present, right? Where you're not you're giving importance to the cultural experience per se as a whole, and not at the money that you're disposing, that you're sharing, because they understand that this type of money very related to the actual ethos of the society, the extractive societies that we are, and it doesn't have any type of meaning for the type of futures that we need on our present lives, right? Related to abundance, related to symbiotic relations with nature in the life-centric manner. So once more, people are not simply sharing fiat or crypto just because they don't know what to do with it, because they understand that this is a evolving move, an intelligent evolving move to do towards a society related, not extractive society, right? Not but a very relational society with nature, with the others as a whole. And there's a thing that we call conscious access to the fund, where no one says to you what quantity you can access or things like that. But if you are really related to the experiment in a very network way, not community, very network way, in a sense, in a very peer-to-peer network way, they understand that they can't access everything, because there are other people that are going to do their conscious access too. So you need to do this exercise to look to yourself, to look to your environment, to look to others, and do, autonomously speaking, do your move, do your conscious access to the shareable fund. Did you guys get that? So it's different only of oh, I have some extra money here, I'm going to put in this fund. No, it's a very conscious move in this sense. They understand that this is the type of investment that we need for this third decade of century, where you don't give a shit about this type of money that we use to pay things and buy products in daily life, and to generate through it another type of work culture, another type of mentality, where you're not being paid, right? You're not being paid to do something. You're only doing the move to access what you need in some moments. And
it sounds very similar.
I don't know if I was able to. Yeah, it's not, because you see, people are earning in Tau tokens. You see, Anthony, and these Tau tokens are related to the way that they, with the experiments as a whole, and these Tau tokens give them access to the shareable fund, but they are sharing things between them. So just to understand, some folks say, well, I'm actually have some room to accommodate someone here in my apartment, in my house, and if you're related to the Tau experiment, this is not going to cost you anything in fiat money, right? So you're welcome to live with me. So this is a type of investment that this person is doing, in a sense that she understands, or he understands, that this movement, this type of let's say, how I say, I don't have a word for this now in my head. This type of, you're embracing the person that is vibrating in the same frequency, in the same ethos that you are vibrating. So it diminishes your need for fiat money, right? So it's interesting how it diminishes the need of fiat money of everyone that's involved, that's actually involved with Tau. They see themselves not so needy to have all the fiat money resources to pay all sorts of things, because people within this 24, 25 people that now is part of Taodao, they are welcoming them to share resources, to share apartment, to share everything.
It's just that I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm just thinking strongly that it sounds very much like it does have strong analogies to like connecting people with people who have stuff and people who can share stuff is market making, and the wealth that shakes out of doing that is just very similar to fiat money wealth. It's just that we're able to loan each other money, so we can get like an advance. So you can actually get stuff done when you didn't have the capital to do stuff before, and that can shake out wealth. So I'm not saying it's not all great ideas, but they do have strong like they're great ideas, but they're not different from the conventional ideas so much. Like, and that's not bad, but it's just that like, have you ever heard of what's that? The Bunz trading group, for instance. It's a quite a sizable phenomenon. Bunz trading. Have you ever heard of that? BUNZ.
No.
And
No.
Anyway, it's basically a market making group. They connect people who have needs, people who have wants, and they will lend each other money sometimes, or other resources like a place to live, which I could do right now if I had a taker. I have a spare room. So I'm very interested in that, but the market making isn't working out for me because I'm in Cornwall, so there's nobody who is in the same market, right? Who has that has that need.
Yeah, but there's a difference. There's a difference happening because in Taodao is very related to the regenerative movements, and folks are trying to be more regenerative for their lives.
Okay.
So they're become less consumers and more prosumers. They're producing things, they're sharing things.
Yeah.
So they are creating infrastructures, superstructures to off the grid things like generation of energy. And so sorry, but I didn't share all the context for you. So but I get it that you got this part. So folks are very trending to do. They are doing the movement to become more regenerative in their lives, right? So in a sense that doing off-the-grid things like not only building solar panels or biochemical generators to share energy generation, but not only that, all sorts of things that you can imagine, and related to crop, food, related to transport, logistic. So it's quite different. I got you, but it's quite different from what you just shared.
Okay, but even if people are doing these types of things, which are particularly valuable and interesting things, and I'm very much a fan of, it still seems to be is people investing in those things, right? Isn't it very similar to investing in those types of things as a community?
Well, because the movement that is going, the move that has been done is the move of you see. Let's put a typical situation, a typical case. Someone gets to know about Taodao's proposal and understands that there's a shareable fund that everyone is co-responsible to maintain, in the sense that this shareable fund is in crypto, is in fiat, okay, but this crypto and fiat is just only to pay those very basic things that you need to pay, right? Or in your life, but you're incentivized to do the movement to become more off-grid person. You're incentivized to produce content about that, right? And things like that. So it's not something that you go because there's a fund, there's money, I can access and pay my bills. No. There's a fund you can access, and but you're doing the movement to become a more regenerative person, right? And that's the type of impact that Taodao brings, right? You're not seeking to monthly access the shareable fund to pay bills. Okay, Anthony, this is not the trend. You're not incentivized to do this. You're incentivized to become more regenerative in your life. So learn things, share things, produce content of the things that you're learning. That's the thing about.
You get paid to do this, but not by other people necessarily. Its value shakes out of it in some way. Not necessarily from other people.
But people don't feel paid to do this. They do this because they want to share what the movement that they're doing to transcend the actual condition, like only consumers, right? Or so they only access. And it's interesting because the type of access, this is a very interesting. I have to write a paper about this because it's very interesting. Because they tend to access each conscious access they do, Anthony. They do it in less quantity. You see, as more as they become more regenerative, become off the grids, let's say, they access, and it's very interesting, man. It's very interesting.
Sounds maybe connecting the dots. You have a destination as being a more regenerative person or a society which has a strong tendency towards regenerative strategies, and there's where we are now, and there's this long path in between, and you have to get stones to hop between. Like you have to connect the where we are now to where we want to be with a mechanism of some kind. And this Tao Dao is part of the mechanism to connect the pieces of the pathway.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. It would be a transitional framework to do that. You put it well. And it's interesting because it's very organic, as I said. It's not so organization. It's not organization. It's very organic. It's not a community. It's more of a network of networks, and it has a strong ethos towards regenerative paths to explore, right? Regenerative realm, concepts and practices. And it's interesting how it's already organism with another endeavor called, and through this podcasting experience that Tibi had, the OCAST experience. So it's even if folks don't do indirectly, like Utopia and the podcast experience, you're already doing something very regenerative or decentralized, at least. It's very interesting. Tibi, my friend, could you, just curious here, could you just share with us how this OCAST experience for you, that you've done 3 at let me see, 1, 2, you've done 3 OCAST experience so far. How did you feel them? What did you learn with them? What type of values related to this?
Vinay, you're breaking up on us.
You're breaking up a lot. Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah, Laura, it seems to be fine. So it's not my internet connection.
That you felt with these experiences, if you were able to share now. Are you guys? I'm still breaking up.
Yeah.
Am I still breaking?
Maybe you can take away the video.
Or is now? Yeah, I took it away. Am I still breaking up? Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah.
Well, I ask you, Tibi, to share a little bit with us what what the pre-OCAST experience that you had, what you learned with it, what you relate to this OCAST experience as very peer-to-peer or very regenerative or very organic. I don't know. It would be nice to hear something from you, because the OCAST experience is the minimal thing that you can experience related to this organic flux, organic interactive and organic flux that I'm very embedded in. So it's going to be nice to hear you to say what you learn with this OCAST experience so far.
Yeah, well, it's an ongoing learning experience, I guess. You have to get used to the format, because there is a format, right? I went into it always a little bit anxious that what might come out of it, because it's, doesn't require a huge amount of preparation, so it's very emergent as it's an experience. Okay, so things emerge in context. But I was pretty surprised how it could flow, and I think I felt a little better at the last one with Sam. I think we did a pretty good job, and we had fun, actually. Now what I learned, well, you learn. I don't know if I can summarize it, but there's always new things that I'm learning, and from this, mostly from this interaction with your side of the world, Vinny, and the people that you bring, because it's like putting two cultures together, right? Even if we all identify as peer-to-peer guys or part of this larger culture, there are particularities, so you guys in Brazil, I think you have your own color, the way you do things, and there's a lot of influence that has come through these experiences. And I think it's mostly the push towards more organic, more natural, more emergent, less rigid, less mechanical, less institutional, more towards something more humane, human-centric. Yeah. So I can't say that I learn something as in a new fact that I can tell you, or a new mathematical equation that I can reproduce. I guess it's slowly permeates in my thinking, and then it gets into the practice. So I think it's very positive. That's why I'm still interested in these things, because it still keeps giving, right? And sometimes we think we understand, and then the next meeting we have, you realize that you didn't fully understand. So it has been very enriching for me. The first OCAST experience was with Michel Baum, so we were caught by surprise, and it felt like just a discussion between me and Michel about things that we know, So that was pretty. And that's how I met you, right?
What is OCAST or OCAD?
OCAST. Two O's. OCAST or OCAST. Yes.
It's a podcast, right?
Yes, it's a decentralized regenerative podcasting experience where you have some roles. You can energize the role of co-host or the role of temporary host. You can be a guest or you can be a co-guest, and you choose the thematic. You have some regen fields, we call regen fields, where you can explore any thematics that you want related to those regen fields. And it's very open, very organic. and it doesn't have any type of central authority, and anyone can do this. So you don't have any type of communication machinery behind it. Oh, this is the OCAS. No, it's very peer-to-peer, right? And if you feel that you want to have your OCAS experience, you just have it. So
where I can find it on the internet?
I shared Tibi. I shared the post-production of actually 2 OCAS experience that you were in. Did you see? Though that post-production was done by folks, by Taudal folks. So did you see it? I shared it in the email threads.
I don't. Maybe when I was in vacation or recently.
I don't know, man. You have to take a look backwards.
Yeah.
And you can look at it. But I'm here very curious to know about Lauren. Where is she now in her house? Because we get to have a tour.
That's what I was thinking. Lauren's giving us a tour of our house by accident. Doing some reorganizing in the basement. We're getting too boring for you. We couldn't keep your attention, could we?
I feel like this conversation is so abstract that I can't. I
know the feeling.
to really grasp anything, and
I think I know where you're coming from, Lauren.
I've been struggling a little bit today. It's not boring. I'm just I need it to take more shape so I can react. With it. Yeah.
Interesting.
My crappy basement.
Interesting that you feel it abstract, because for me it's so solid. So it's so real, because it's something that I live literally every day, 24/7. So it's very, very real for me. It's not abstracted in the sense that I've always access all sorts of things or distributing things, and with all the things that I'm involved with, Lauren, it's very interesting to have this perspective of something very abstractive for you. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So so Tibi, I think that we're already in the top of the hour, unless that we want to still to make some work with Lauren in her basement.
Well, I wanted to say something for thanks, Laurie, for hosting this one. I'm in the middle of something, so I would like to invite you to a document and maybe have a next discussion about that. Vinny, you invited somebody at one of these OCAST experience, these meetings that we have, and he was into impact financing.
Yeah, Walter.
Okay. Yes, Walter. Yes. And today at 4 o'clock in the morning, we had another meeting with some people from Europe that do impact financing. Essentially what they're trying to do in this field, these organizations, they're trying to match projects, high impact projects, with investors that want not just to make some money, but also have an impact, right?
Yeah.
So they're matchmakers, and some of them, they put in place some programs of accelerators, in order to give more chance to these social entrepreneurs to to achieve their goals, achieve their missions, to increase the probability, right, that the investment goes somewhere, producing a bit of profit to pay back the investors, but also achieving the impact goals. Anyway, so that's the landscape here, right? And there's various flavors. Walter has his own flavor. These guys in Europe have their own flavor. They work under United Nations, and they expand into cryptocurrency. And in the past we had some other discussions with other organizations. We go back into 2016 when we participated at the Impact Economy Summit, in Whistler, BC. Thinking about impact finance, and so I thought that I'm gonna sit down and write a sort of a master document of all our experiences within Sensorica with impact financing, impact investing. So I'm going to gather this information down there, and maybe including the exchanges that I had with Walter. You remember where we were talking about alchemy. We were saying, you know, the problem with impact investors is that they put money in, and they want money out. Maybe a triangular relationship would work better, where you put money in and you get some other type of value out, right? So you could have, let's say, the state, an investor, and the social entrepreneur. So the social entrepreneur reduces costs to the state, and therefore the state pays the investor, right?
Yeah.
So you can have this kind of triangular relationship: A, B, and the investor and the entrepreneur. So A puts money into the entrepreneur, but gets something else from B. Maybe money, but maybe something else, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had these discussions, and it's about wealth, right? Because you know, these social entrepreneurs, they might not just create profits or money, but they might create I don't know, local resilience for food, like our protein extractor project. They might create more security. They might create a regenerative capacity. Okay, so who's the beneficiary of this, and what are the relationships that we can build? So it's about wealth, right? These social entrepreneurs, they do create wealth, but if you ask them to give you money back, it's probably a bad proposition, right? Because the wealth that they create it's not money, it's something else, you know. So there is a flaw in the logic of impact investors putting money in and demanding money out, because the social entrepreneur is not there to create money, right? So I would like to, I don't know, to go back a little bit, because I'm going to sit down and do this synthesis about our experience with these kind of organizations and what we have proposed to them. Maybe if there is an interest, we can tackle the wealth transfer from that angle, you know, because I see impact investors or impact investing organizations as some sort of an important middleman or player in this transfer of wealth. You know, they're like alchemists, you know. So I wonder how we could nurture a new breed of impact investors to kind of create a sort of a general framework to say, you know, you guys in the new world, maybe this is your role. Okay, maybe this is, you know what I'm saying? So we can do something positive for, I mean, we can contribute to create this framework for impact investors so they can get inspired by it and discuss it and remix it and do whatever. I'm just starting the ball rolling somehow.
Yeah, man.
Because there is a lack of imagination, you know? Yeah.
That sounds like a really good idea.
Totally. But you see, Tibi, what is interesting to me and hearing you now is that this is what you just summarized there is one of the actual goals of all these touchdowns that we're doing here as wealth transfer. You see, to come up with a new way to reframe or to understand investment in a very, let's say, post-rational way, like, as you put it some touchdowns ago, in a very post-rational way, in a very, let's say, Taodao way, where you just dispose or you just share that fiat money or crypto for this type of impacts, right? Regenerative impacts in people's life and communities, to create resilience towards a more regenerative life in your present. So that was I was calling the ecology of DAOs. Remember the expression that I put in emails, the ecology of DAOs things. I was thinking that if from the beginning we have Walter, as we still have him. He would be, let's say, the proto impact investor that would do something different from the impact investment scene, right? But he's, of course, as we are, very busy, and but he has been, let's say, asking me how is the touchdown, how is evolving, and he's going to be with us. I think next week he's going to be with us. And I said to him that to invite his impact investor friends to come along too. So it's going to be nice.
Well, yeah. What if we work with him somehow and give him a sort of a framework, and then he runs that through his friends and propagates it and see if we could, because tonight 4:30 in the morning we met with these guys, but there was such a lack of imagination. We had to explain what is commons. We had to explain what is commons-based peer production. Like they didn't even know the word commons. How can you be an impact? How can you be an impact investing organization without knowing what commons means? So you see, you see. I mean, don't call yourself impact investor if you don't know about commons. Let's be serious here. You know what I'm saying? So I realized that there is such a big, huge gap, and why I think this is important. It's because these people that call themselves impact investment groups or platforms, they have such an important role to play. There are pivotal points. They are like leverage points, right? Within the transition. They're the ones that are supposed to be on both sides, taking money from capitalism and nurturing new wealth. They're the ones that are supposed to do that, institutionally speaking. But there's such a huge gap, and we can benefit from teaching them because then we don't have to run around and look for money. They could actually feed us what we need, right? So there is a symbiotic relationship. There is also how do you say a selfish reason for teaching them these tricks, because we can form a symbiotic relationship. For example, if they see something, that a problem in the environment, where they can come to Sensorica and say, can you guys come up with a technical solution? And then we have a bunch of investors on the other side that are ready to fund you. Because they're not producing, they don't know how to drive projects, but they know how to match investors with solutions to problems that they see. So it's a symbiotic relationship, you know what I'm saying? So you guys and us, we could run projects, Anyway,
totally. But my man, it's interesting how we're in the 20th touchdown, and it's interesting how it needed 20 touchdowns to us to have this conversation, Tibi. It's very interesting how it's been a long road, not a so long one, but a long road to come to this place. And of course, count with me, man. Let's do this. Let's do this talk. But you see, just to finish here, our 20th touchdown. You see, actually, there's a type of $1,000 that are always at the disposal of the people around the Tao Dao experiment, right? And what is $1,000, right? But $1,000 that is already changing the life of 25 people and their families. So what type of impact investment is that, right? So we're not talking about huge amount of monies here, right? So we're talking about a way to do investment that is not you expect to have some more money that you put in, right? You just share this amount of money, this tiny amount of money that I'm talking here about, $1,000, and that's coming from one source, right? It's coming from various peoples in a very decentralized way, and they are doing as a network, not as a community, as a network, this movement towards regeneration. Right? It's very beautiful to see the experiment alive and running, right? And this is something that is, I think that for these guys that you met earlier, must be something very alien from them, very alien in the sense that is very from another world, right? Because it's very different how they're thinking about impact investment, right? So
yes.
Yes, and so let's come up with this, man. It's going to be nice. And Anthony, you're invited, man, if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to come.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's it. So
Good,
that's
guys.
it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.
Oh, bye, Tibi. See
Bye-bye.
you, Anthony. Let's go.